First, we're going to start with just a little bit going through what we need to know for Sunday. Sunday is the 17th of Tamuz, and our sages have instructed us 4 rabbinical fasts. We have a fast from the Torah, which is of course Yom Kippur, and then we have 4 rabbinical fasts that we have to fast them. And needless to say that there are 3 of them that are half a day. We have the 3rd of Tishrei, Tzom Gedalia, and that we fast because after the destruction of the temple, there was a certain individual. His name was Gedalia ben Achikam, and he was the so to say the one of the last that was remaining after the destruction. And then afterward, Nebuchadnezzar left in Eretz Israel. And then at some point he was killed, he was murdered, and that was the start of the beginning of all the sages of, so to say, dying, and then the flame of the nation was diminishing. The second fast is the 10th of Tevet, which that's the time when the king of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Bavel, he sieged Yerushalayim, and that of course brought the destruction of the temple. And then the 3rd fast is Yud Zayin B'Tamuz, which we're going to talk about it very soon, what happened. And then, of course, the 4th one is Tisha B'Av, which is a full fast. Now, on the 17th of Tammuz, happened 5 major disasters, major problems, that's why we fast. The first and most important is the tablets broke. When Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountains, then on the 17th of Tammuz, that's when he came down, and the first set of tablets, they broke. The second thing, we used to have a certain sacrifice. It's called Korban Tamid, and that's the time when it got cancelled. The second thing that happened on Yud Zayin B'Tamuz, a certain sacrifice that is called Korban Tamid got cancelled. We don't really relate to the disaster of what it means that a korban, a sacrifice, gets cancelled. We had Bet HaMikdash twice. Before Bet HaMikdash, we had a Mishkan for a few hundred years. And we, in our generation, can't relate what does it mean to have a Mishkan or to have a Mikdash. Mishkan is a tabernacle, was something temporary, and a Mikdash was permanent. Can you imagine now we have a Bet HaMikdash, a person sins, he goes to Yerushalayim with a goat, with a pigeon, with a bird, whatever it is, and he gets atoned for his sins. We sin and we stay dirty with our sins. At the time of Bet HaMikdash, everything could be changed. So the day of Yud Zayin B'Tamuz, the Korban Tamid was cancelled. It stopped. And that's a big disaster for our nation. And even mentally, emotionally, and mystically is a very big problem for us because we don't have a way how to appease for the bad things that we do. The third thing that happened, the walls, and that happened on the second temple, the walls of Bet HaMikdash of Yerushalayim were broken. And some ask how come we don't mourn when the first set of the walls of Bet HaMikdash were broken. Why we don't mourn that? The Talmud there are 2 types of Talmuds, the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. The Talmud is the explanation, the oral explanation of the Mishnah. The Mishnah was written in Eretz Israel, but after the destruction, a lot of the nation moved east to Babylon. And when their sages were sitting and interpreting the Mishnah, there were 2 groups. One group was in Bavel, in Iraq, and that's the Talmud that is called Bavli. And there were still sages in Eretz Israel, and that's called the Yerushalmi. There's a little bit difference between one and the other. And the Talmud Yerushalmi says, even though it says in the book of Jeremiah and Yirmiyah that the destruction of the breaking of the walls of the first temple actually happened on the 9th of the month, on Tet B'Tamuz, which comes a big question why we're not commemorating that. But we'll talk in the next class why there are many disasters that we don't commemorate and then a few that we do. But nevertheless, according to the prophet Yirmiyahu, can specifically find in chapter 52, then he says that the breaking of the walls of the first temple was on the 9th of Tamuz. The Talmud Yerushalmi says it's not correct. Since of the commotion and the action, they literally got confused, and they were also on Yud Zayin B'Tamuz. That's what the Talmud says. But nevertheless, this is the third thing that happened, is the walls of Yerushalayim cracked, and needless to say, brought to the destruction. The fourth is there was a certain wicked individual, his name is Apostomos, and he burned a Sefer Torah in Beit HaMikdash. And the fifth thing that he did is that he brought an idol, a tzelem, into the Heichal, into the chamber where the menorah is, the small mizbeach, the small altar, and the burning of the incense and so forth. So we have 5 things that are in our history that happened on that day, and needless to say, because of the nature of the day, then many other things happen, but these are the main things that happen. And so this is going to fall this year on Shabbat. And Shabbat we don't fast. The only time we will fast on Shabbat if it's Yom Kippur that falls on Shabbat. So the fast will be moved to Sunday. Shabbat we behave as usual. We have everything is business as usual, as they say. We don't mourn on Shabbat. Right when Shabbat leaves, we start getting ready for the fast, and mentally getting ready. Not you don't have to make anything physical unless you want to eat. And at 4:02 here in Tzfat, depending on where you are in the world, that's when the fast starts. So for the local people, we're just going to advertise on the WhatsApp and the email group when the fast starts. And but for anybody in the world, they have to search exactly when it's dawn. It's called Amud Shachar, and to see when the fast starts, because one is permitted to wake up before then and eat. So and as long as you make a condition the night before that you're going to wake up 20 minutes, half an hour before the fast, you can wake up, drink a few cups of water, eat something, and then the fast is not as harsh as it would be. But you have to make a condition. You can't just wake up and eat. Right? It means that when you say Kriyat Shema L'Amidah, you're saying, I'm going to set up the alarm to wake up at 3:45, so I have 15 minutes to drink a little bit. So the fast will be moved to Sunday. It's a half a day fast. We start at dawn and we finish when the stars go out. Since it's summer, it's going to be a long fast. We're going to hear the stars go out at 8:22 or 8:24. I didn't check. And it's going to be a long fast. But when you eat something before the fast, it's not so bad. Different between Tisha B'Av, we're not talking at all about Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a fast from the Torah. It's Doraita. There's different rules. That we're going to learn B'ezrat Hashem in 2 months. But the rabbinical fasts, we have 3 on one hand that are half days. And we mentioned the 3rd of Tishrei, the 10th of Tevet, and the 17th of Tamuz. On the other hand, there's one long fast, which is Tisha B'Av, which, when I get back from London, we'll learn about that. Hopefully not. Be'ezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come, we're not going to have to learn about it. But if Chas v'Shalom, he decides to wait a few more days, then we'll learn already then. These 3 rabbinical fasts are different than Tisha B'Av, because we're allowed to bathe, we're allowed to be in touch with water, to have contact with water. On Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, water is not allowed to touch us. Not by even washing our hands, not by washing our face and mouth and so forth. On Yud Zayin B'Tamuz, you're allowed to. You're allowed to bathe, you're allowed to wash your hands and many other things that we don't do on Tisha B'Av, such as wearing leather shoes, having marital relations, and many other things. So it's a much less strict fast. For anyone who has a certain condition, a medical condition, then the rule is that one doesn't need to fast. So pregnant women don't need to fast. Breastfeeding women don't need to fast. A person that is sick that doesn't have even life danger doesn't need to fast. So people who have diabetes and many other different conditions, then they don't need to fast. But it doesn't mean that you need to feast. So you keep it to the minimum. You don't have to now say, oh, it's a fast, let me go now to the bakery here and buy a lot of rogolach. You keep it to the minimum. You drink what you need and you eat what you need. In the morning we went through the halachot, so it's important to know, because one of our dear members asked if the husband of the pregnant wife needs to fast. Can be exempt from fasting. So the husband is not the one who's carrying the load, the cargo. The husband has to fast twice also for the wife. So, and massage her feet at the same time. So let's just an advice. But nevertheless, husbands don't get a free ticket on the wife. But again, pregnant women, breastfeeding women, a person who is sick or has a condition doesn't need to fast. It's important to know. And needless to say, if somebody wants to take on themselves, then go ahead. But specifically, a person that is sick in a medical condition or a pregnant woman, it's not good, better not to fast. If you think you have a certain condition or something that will affect the fast, and ask your personal or your local rabbi, and you need to get anyways an approval from the rabbi to tell you, no, it's fine, you don't have to fast. Excuse me? Baruch Hashem in Tzfat, there are many local rabbis. You have to appoint your rabbi to ask your questions. Baruch Hashem in Tzfat, everybody's rabbis. So somebody told me,
what about diabetes?
Diabetes, you don't have to fast.
The whole day?
You're just exempt from the fast. Torah allows you to be exempt from the fast if you have diabetes. So if you don't have to do something, you don't have to do it. If the Torah tells you you are exempt, then take this exemption. And what you can do, people that don't fast, what is suggested is to take a certain amount of money, what would cost them to feed themselves that day. So, and then I redeem it. So I don't fast today, I'll give 30 shekels, 40 shekels, 50 shekels, $20, wherever you are. What will cost you to eat? So, on that note, it was a long time ago. I was when I lived in New York. There was a group of men that I used to teach a class, and one time we were learning specifically a part of the book of the Tanya that is called Yeret HaTshuva, and we were talking about tshuva, very, very deep, very, very informative, and we were talking about fasting, how certain sins can be atoned and can be cleansed, so to say, with fasting. And there is a teachings of the Arizal, in the Tikkunim of the Arizal, where he says, for this sin you have to fast so and so times, for this sin you have to fast so and so times. A lot of times. So, and we were talking about it, and I said, listen, in our generation, it's not much harder to fast, but one can redeem it with money. How do you redeem it with money? You evaluate how much it will cost you to feed yourself that day, and then instead of fasting, you give that as to charity, to a poor person, to an organization, whatever it is. So everybody says, okay, I eat for about $20. And one person says, I just eat a bagel in the morning for $1, and so you make your own calculation how it would cost you to feed yourself that day if you're not fasting, and you can give that amount to charity. That will be good enough. But nevertheless, when the Torah doesn't demand you to do something, you don't have to add more. If the Torah tells you if you have a medical condition you are exempt from fasting, good, so be exempt from fasting. But nevertheless, you don't have to feast, and you don't have to party, you don't have to now celebrate. You have to keep it to the minimum. Understand that the day is a day of reflecting. This is what we're going to learn in the next class, and we learned that many times in previous classes. The fast is not only to commemorate something that happened in the past. The fast is to understand, what can I do to change for the future? Because if something happened in the past because of my actions, and I don't learn from it, then what good is my fast? The fast is to put me into a place that I can think and meditate and understand something was done wrong in the past. What can I do in the future to change it? So this is important to remember. Now, there are other rules that we're going to need to know. I think what we're going to do, we'll do more classes during the 3 weeks, but from Sunday starts the 3 weeks. It's called Ben HaMetzarim. It's 3 weeks that we add on ourselves a lot of customs of being like a mourner. So people don't get married, no affairs, no happy affairs, no listening to music, no can't cut your hair, and many other things. There's different customs here. Some people, what they do is the whole 3 weeks they don't eat meat. Some people stop eating meat from Rosh Chodesh Av. Some people stop eating meat from just the week of Tisha B'Av. Same thing, the week of Tisha B'Av and the week before, which will be from Rosh Chodesh Av, there's much more strictness. You're not allowed to wash clothes, meat, wine, and so forth, but we'll go through that when I get back. No point of now telling too much information. But cutting hair, taking a haircut during the 3 weeks is not permissible unless it's a woman and it's her day of her mikveh and she needs to groom herself, the hair, the nails, and so forth, then she's permitted. But during the 3 weeks, we don't cut the hair. And of course, there's different levels of strictness, what people take on themselves. Some people don't listen the whole 3 weeks for music. We went through this whole topic during the Omer about the music, because a lot of people were asking questions. What type of music can I not hear or can I hear? Can I hear music for working out? Can I hear music for pleasure? So we had already a class during the Omer about that. You can go to that class and it applies the same thing here. But nevertheless, we do diminish anything that will cause extra simcha and happiness, because we want to commemorate both the destructions of the temples, the fact that we don't have a temple yet, and so forth. Now, when I get back, we'll already go through more rules for the 3 weeks. I mean, what's important for you to know right now is that we just diminish simcha. And again, it all depends on the person's minhagim, on their customs, and what you take on yourself and what not. But nevertheless, our sages teach us that when a person mourns the destruction of the temple, then first of all and most important, they'll gain to see the temple. If a person doesn't mourn the destruction of the temple, they might lose their zchut, their merit, to see the third temple. Now, I want to be first in line. I don't want to be, in line 272. So, because what's going to happen when you're in line 272? You're just going to see hands like this with cameras. So 2 weeks ago I went to my kids, they had a show in school. So I just caught a nice corner at the end. I don't like, pushing and shoving. So I sat at the end. And in the beginning I was like, good, I have a very good view. Till the show started. The show started, all I saw is hands. Everybody's, like submarines in the olden days, they had the stethoscope, not the stethoscope, the periscope. It's just something, everybody's holding their cameras like that, their phones, not their cameras. So all you see is hands, and then the hands are moving like eyes. So I couldn't see anything, just hands. My son told me, did you see the show? I said, well, I saw about 400 hands. He's like, why didn't you take a picture of me? I was like, well, I would take a picture, I would only take a picture of hands. But you have about 300 parents that have pictures. So same thing here. If I going to be invited to the great inauguration in the Beit HaMikdash, I don't want to be first in line so I can see what's going on there. But don't worry, there'll be large screens. It's going to be broadcast on YouTube and Facebook, but nevertheless, you want to be there live. So really, what we need to remember is Sunday, the rules for the fast. We start early in the morning. We finish at night. You can bathe and wash your hands and prepare food. The fast finishes at the end. If you can, highly, highly recommended, and this is of course for the women, the men have to. I would highly recommend to come to a shul in the morning, because we say slichot in the morning. We add a long paragraph, depending on the shul, can take half an hour, can take an hour, but we add a paragraph of slichot, of asking forgiveness and reading a lot of poets, which is beautiful, very powerful time. We also read out of the Torah, and we sing Avinu Malkeinu. There's a lot of additions that we do. If you can make it to a shul, then it's highly recommended. And in the evening prayer in Mincha, we also have a very long Mincha. We read out of the Torah, we recall somebody for the Maftir, long Avinu Malkeinu, and so forth. So that's Birkat Kohanim. So I highly suggest, if you can, make it for Mincha at least, and come at least hear the Kriyat Torah, because that affects a lot the soul when you hear the words of the Torah. I was explaining to the men a couple of days ago, Baruch Hashem, every day we pray here, we have a minyan, and unfortunately sometimes people, when the Torah is out, they have a conversation like as if the business as usual. And we're not allowed to talk around the Torah, and especially when the Torah is out, it's not respectful at all to have a regular conversation. Needless to say, to have fun, to make jokes. So I was explaining to the men at the time that I heard from a very interesting explanation that when the Torah is being pulled out, it's a mini Matan Torah. We're going back in time for what happened in Matan Torah, because the Torah was given, then we bring the Torah out. And the same way that we're standing around the Torah is resembling the time of Matan Torah. And the person who reads out of the Torah, he's like a Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu, the Shekhinah, the feminine aspect of the divine, spoke through Moshe Rabbeinu, and they heard the 10 Commandments from the voice of Hashem. The same thing when the Baal Koreh is talking. That's why it's always recommended that in the shul the Baal Koreh is the appropriate individual, that because the words of the Torah is coming through his mouth, and it's a mini Matan Torah. And now what happened at the time of Matan Torah, besides getting the Torah? Something very, very special happened that time, is that all the sick people got healed. Whoever came to Matan Torah, if somebody was blind, he started seeing. Somebody was deaf, he started hearing. If somebody was crippled, he got healed. That's what happened with Matan Torah. Everybody got healed. So when we read out of the Torah and we have a mini Matan Torah, this is the time where you get your refuah, your healing. So I'm sure you noticed once or twice that you've been to shul, that after Kriyat Torah we say a prayer for the healing of the sick. Misheberach Avatenu Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov, and we mention names. Everybody comes and say the names of the people who are sick. Why do we do that? Why dafka next to the Torah? Because the Torah, the time is very powerful to bring refuah, to bring healing to anybody who needs it. Needless to say, the ones who mock the time, the ma'amad, the Torah is out and people talk or laugh, that chas v'shalom, it does the complete opposite effect. So that's how severe it is to be quiet and to listen to the Torah. But anyone who needs refuah, needs healing healing not only for the body but also for the soul. If you ever listen to the words of the bracha, it says refuat hanefesh verefuat haguf, the healing of the soul and the healing of the body. So this is a very, very auspicious time for chas v'shalom, somebody who needs chas v'shalom, somebody is sick and they need refuah, to come and listen to the Torah. So even ladies should come. There's no exemption to the ladies. So much more so on a day like a fast day, that in essence seems a very negative day, but there's something very positive in that day. That's what we're going to learn now in the next class, and which is amazing because it's connected to our parasha. Our parasha right now is Parashat Balak, and we spoke about it on Sunday. How can it be that Balak, being such a wicked individual, that he gets a parasha named after him? It's a little bit of a chutzpah. There's no parasha of Moshe Rabbeinu. There's no parasha called Avraham. How come the wicked one is getting a name after the parasha named after him? So we spoke already on Sunday, but we derived out of it that on this week's parasha we're getting the prophecy of the coming of Mashiach, which is the best news our nation ever got. So we see the Torah is trying to hint to us that even from something so dark, light can come out, but the greatest light. So the more greater the light is, the more darker the situation will be. Which taught us that, dark situations in our life, challenges and problems, they're actually holding the most potential to the highest light. So when things go bad in our life, is not to chas v'shalom break my spirit, is to understand that it's hidden a very strong light and they're a very powerful and holy light. Same thing on a day of a fast, that such bad things happen. Needless to say that these days, that's what we're going to learn in the next class, these days at the time of Mashiach are going to transform to days of simcha. They're going to be holidays. Gimel Tishrei and the 10th of Tevet and the 17th of Tamuz and Tisha B'Av, they're all going to be feast days. It's going to be a biggest simcha. What we need to take from that this is an opportunity. It's not, people say, you tell them Shvaisra B'Tamuz, you Zayin, the 17th of Tamuz, oh no, fasting again. Today I told the men, on Sunday it's Zayin B'Tamuz. You see the faces like as if I hacked their bank account. Oh my gosh. I don't know what's going on. So you don't eat for a couple hours. So we perceive it as something so negative. It's not. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to gain something very, very powerful. So I don't see any difference between the females and the male. The women also should take that day as an opportunity And I highly suggest, if you can make it to the shul that day, at least to hear the Kriyat Torah. If you can't do it on the Shacharit, I know it's long, then come in Mincha. It will be advertised exactly when we're going to have Mincha. At least you can hear Kriyat Torah and the reading of the Haftarah and so forth. And the most important thing to remember is it's not a day of necessarily being meditating on the negativity of the past. It's more focusing on the positivity of the future. That's how you're able to take something dark and transform it. And this is a lesson to our life. Something bad happens in your life is for you to wake up to use that as an opportunity to change to something positive rather than being stuck on something negative. Bezat Hashem, Bemet, as the Prophet says, that these days are going to turn into a simcha. So we still have a few days that Kadosh Baruch Hu can do whatever He wants, any miracle He wants, and Bezat Hashem, maybe Sunday will be a day of celebration instead of a day of a fast. Bezat Hashem should Bemet derive the best out of that day, and hopefully it will be the last time that we need to fast on the destruction of the temple.